Hey, hey, hey. Good evening. Class is in session. Come on in, come on in, come on in, come on in. We got some things to get into, all things Aaliyah. Hey, Yvonne, welcome. Thank you for joining. We are getting back into the baby girl, better known as Aaliyah, story. So today we're going to cover chapters 7, 8, and 9. 7, 8, and 9. So come on in. I didn't schedule this live much in advance. So I had some time to be able to get through some more chapters. So we are going to do that because, child, I'm trying to wrap this book up this week. So we can move on to other things, but we have to get through it. It's a really good read. And listen, we want to hear all they got to say about Aaliyah. Kathy Ian Dolly is the author. She's done a great job with covering Aaliyah's story from, what I can tell thus far up to chapter 7. So I am here for all things that she has to say about Aaliyah and sharing her story, a story that deserves to be told. And up until this point, we've learned a lot of, there was a lot of good that did take place in her life, but she did have her fair share of bad, people taking advantage of her, predators, i.e. R. Kelly. So we did talk about just, the role that R. Kelly did play in her life in the earlier chapters. Now we're kind of getting into the story, of her life post R. Kelly as she's trying to present to the world who Aaliyah is, aside from R. Kelly, because early on in her career, her identity was kind of wrapped up into R. Kelly's identity. He was a big superstar at the time when she met him, when they collaborated together. So it was almost like she was kind of being lumped together with him and his success. So once she decided to break away from him at around like 16, she was on a mission to, have the world to get to know who she was. Aaliyah, who she was. And it wasn't easy, but she managed to do that before she left us. So we are learning the intricate details on how she went about that with reintroducing herself to the world. So come on in. Hey, Ariane, you say everyone, let's go. Listen, we're going to get through chapter 7, 8, and 9 tonight. So we are pretty much kind of like approaching like a midpoint to this book. So my goal is to wrap it up this week so we can move on to other things. So, yes, so come on in here, like, share, and subscribe, and we're going to get to it. So, chapter 7, baby steps. Sometimes I'm goody. Right now, I'm naughty. Aaliyah, are you that somebody? So that's a quote from her song, Are You That Somebody? And that was definitely one of her many hits. I definitely remember that song and that line amongst others. So chapter 7, baby steps. By 1997, Aaliyah was growing in popularity, yet she still craved some regularity. She attended Detroit High School for the Fine and Performing Arts when she could, only now with a bodyguard. I'm in independent study where I have a tutor that travels with me. So I don't feel the pressure of having to go back home and get up at 8 in the morning and go to different classes, she told MTV. I can go into my school from 12 to 4, so I have some normalcy in my life. So I can see my friends, be in the environment, but I work on my own pace. It was her senior year, and given that she didn't have much of a high school experience, she wanted to get what little out of it that she could before it was gone completely. That meant showing up for events without making a scene, though how could she possibly not? Aaliyah was all over the radio, in every magazine. Her music videos were played on every network, and her style was consistently imitated by her adoring fans. There was no way to escape that, even for just a night. On top of that, being known for her unbridled authenticity meant she wouldn't just show up, she would show up on her own terms. Initially, Aaliyah plans was to wear a pair of baggy jeans for her high school prom back in Detroit. She opted at the last minute to wear a powder blue pantsuit with a crop top. Naturally, her decision to even wear pants to the prom caused a commotion. Girls back then were not only expected, but basically instructed to wear dresses to any fancy events. But Aaliyah was Aaliyah, and if she was going to do the prom, she was going to go all out. But no commotion that night was greater than superstar Aaliyah showing up to her high school prom while she was dominating R&B music. Aaliyah graduated from high school at the start of the summer that year with a 4.0 GPA and even had hopes to one day attend Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. Her career had other plans for her. 20th Century Fox was in the process of releasing the animated film Anastasia, about an 18-year-old orphan with amnesia looking to put the pieces of her life and memories back together. The film has a star-studded lineup of voiceover talent, including John Cusack, Megan Ryan, Kelsey Grammer, and Kirsten Dunst, among others. In the film, the song Journey to the Past, written by Lynn Ahrings and composed by Stephen Flaherty, is sung by actor and recording artist Liz Calloway, though with the soundtrack release, Fox Music wanted someone with a bigger name and a wider range to sing the song. The head of Fox Music, Robert Kraft, chose Aaliyah for the job. Kraft connected with producer Guy Roche to work with her again and change the shape of the song to fit a broader audience, while also remaining true to Aaliyah's R&B sound. Although she came from a hip-hop background musically, her character's smile and looks exuded something very, very sweet and gentle, very kind and peaceful. Roche told Bryce Broadley in 2017. Not to mention, the tone of her voice was perfect for the song. Ahrings and Flaherty returned to the song to change up some lyrics and the composition to tailor it for Aaliyah. After seeing the movie, I was so excited, Aaliyah said in an interview during the recording process of the song. I mean, it's a great opportunity for me as an artist. Even when it was first brought to my attention before I even saw the movie, I was familiar with the story. She said the team wanted to change it up a little bit while preserving the magic of the song that was reflected in the film. In August 1997, Aaliyah was bound for Toronto to meet with Roche and record the song. Her career was on the up. Roche told Broadly, I felt like every time we met, she had just gotten off a plane, gone straight into the studio, got right into work mode, and delivered the song beautifully between interruptions for interviews. Then it was on to the next plane. In the music video, Aaliyah travels through various past and present cityscapes while also being inserted into animated moments from the film, which takes place in both Russia and France in the mid-1900s. Through this single and its visuals, Aaliyah once again was connecting two different audiences together. The video found significant airplay and network rotation from BET to VH1. It was a genius move on behalf of Fox to make her the face of the soundtrack. Aaliyah was a star, but more important, she was loved, which gave the song wings to fly from the Disney-style dedicated crowd to R&B lovers who adored their princess. The result was a win-win. The song was nominated for an Oscar and a Golden Globe that following year for the best original song, losing to the soundtrack giant My Heart Will Go On from the film Titanic. Still, Aaliyah made history at 19 as the youngest artist to ever perform at the Oscars. She also wore a dress which alone had fans shocked. Her date for the Academy Awards was her brother, Rashad. This wasn't her first appearance on a soundtrack, but it was a springboard for what was to come. Within a few short months, a new opportunity appeared that not only took Aaliyah to the next level, but also proved that when talent comes together to make magic, there's no timestamp on their genius. It was the baby coup heard round the world, and its birth happened in less than a day of labor. In June 1998, Eddie Murphy starred in the reboot of Dr. Dolittle, the 1967 cult classic film about a doctor with an innate capability to speak to animals and understand their responses. The film boasted a star-studded cast of animal voiceovers, including Ellen DeGeneres, Chris Rock, John Leguizamo as part of the film's release. A soundtrack arrived in tandem, released through Atlantic Records, but it needed a hit, and the way to get there was to hit the hit makers. Timberland and the gang were fresh off the stage one night when he got a call from Barry Hankerson. Atlanta wanted Timberland to produce the lead single off the Dr. Dolittle soundtrack. Aaliyah would perform it. Hankerson already told the label that they had a song ready, so by the time he called Timberland, the deal was etched in stone per Tim. This was 4 o'clock a.m. in New York, but the team was out in Los Angeles, making it 1 o'clock a.m. there. The track had to be delivered by 11 o'clock the following morning. Naturally, despite Hankerson's grandiose gesture to the label that landed them this covered soundtrack, there was no song recorded. Timberland immediately pushed back, but the hefty price tag of over $400,000 for the track to be split between Aaliyah and Timberland was enough to get them into the studio to create something, anything. So they headed to the Village Studios on the west side of Los Angeles to begin working on the song. Unbeknownst to them, would propel Aaliyah into soundtrack royalty. By this point, Aaliyah was working with another songwriter in the crew, Stephen Ellis Garrett, better known as the late Static Major. While Static was also a graduate of the Swing Mob, he and his group Playa were fresh off the release of their debut album, Cheers to You, that March. Static's singing and songwriting came into focus when he co-wrote Genuine's Pony in 1996 with Genuine and Timberland, while also singing background vocals on the hit single. He and Aaliyah were already putting some songwriting concepts together for what would become her final album. Just a few short years later. Since he was already actively penning songs with Aaliyah, he took the songwriting reins on this fast turnaround track. Static, Timberland, Aaliyah, and the engineer Jimmy Douglas were all in the studio late that evening, figuring out how to flip this song in record time. Just a few hours earlier, they had no idea this song was even supposed to exist, yet here they were attempting to develop some quick concepts. Timberland nailed the beat on the second try. It all came down to the drums, while Timberland introduced a keyboard note and manipulated guitar sounds to guide Static's writing, like a songwriter creating a song with his acoustic guitar. It was the thuds of the ricochet bass line that made the beat come alive. On top of the bass line were blips and beatboxing. Timberland later returned to the beat to give it layers once the song was written. The concept of the song wasn't hard for Static Major to write at all. Are You That Somebody is a song about love that is cautiously optimistic, yet it's hidden from the rest of the world. The song places Aaliyah in a position of spotting the object of her affection, but preferring to keep it a secret and wondering if the other person is down for the same. There's even a part where she's asking him to come through on a late night creep, but still keep it between the two of them. Static Major vocals can be heard singing on the hook with Aaliyah. His falsetto fits hers like a glove, and with good reason. You can't tell nobody I'm talking about nobody. In this case, art imitated life. You're dealing with Barry's niece, says Static's former manager Tim Barnett. And it was like, man, don't tell nobody. Static's mother, Edith Garrett Raymond, confirmed to Vibe in 2008 that Aaliyah and her late son were dating. They started around 1997 and continued into 1998. They were definitely an item, she said. Aaliyah was crazy about him, and while the song cloaks their romance and secrecy, they were pretty open to Static's mom and apparently Aaliyah's own parents. He brought Aaliyah to my wedding, Edith continued. That was a big deal because her parents didn't let her go places. While Static laid down the lyrics in the studio that evening, the song had been brewing. He originally wrote it to Aaliyah, girl, I've been watching you like a hawk in the sky. And since the relationship was hidden from her uncle and seemingly everyone else in the camp but their parents, the hush-hush nature of asking if she was down was a sly way of asking her out. It was cutesy but endearing. Aaliyah wasn't a fan of the song on the first listen, despite the autobiographical undertone. Still, she recorded it, and of course, it was perfect. Now her voice was the icing on the cake. Timbaland said in his masterclass segment on creating the track, considering the slim turnaround, the song had to be written, produced, recorded, mixed, and mastered all in the same night. Once Aaliyah vocals were laid down, along with Timbaland's and Static's, Timbaland came back to put on the finishing touches, which were some more beat layers and his now infamous Dirty South intro. Then came a last-minute addition. After re-listening to the hook, Timbaland paused and headed to his CD collection. Literally, we were done and about to print the mix, and Tim said, wait, one more thing. Jimmy Douglas remembers, and out comes this baby sound. Everybody else was gone. Just me and Tim were left when he did that. The sound was of a satisfied baby, not quite laughing, but showing emotion. Many believed it was actually clipped from a whole movie of Aaliyah's as a baby, but it wasn't. It was later revealed that it's a sample from the sound called Happy Baby off a 1964 album called Authentic Sound Effects Volume 8. How and why did Timbaland even choose that for that song? Because he's Tim. Douglas said with a laugh, it was unorthodox and a little weird, but something only Timbaland could pull off. It strangely worked. Aaliyah thought the sound was so cute. It was also the first time she was referred to as baby girl on record, thereby birthing that term of endearment to be used by the rest of the world, all from a soundtrack with a baby sample. Many times during the record-making process, the creators do things that ain't as big as a deal as the public perceives it, Douglas continues. That was one of those moments. We had a morning deadline and had to finish, and suddenly a baby appears, and the rest, well, is history. The song was a hit, though its success was contingent upon factors that set it apart from other popular songs that arrived during that time. For one, Are You That Somebody wasn't initially released as a single to record stores. In the late 90s, retail singles were the norm, especially when dictating a song's success. Are You That Somebody was only available on the Dr. Dolittle soundtrack, meaning fans had to buy an entire album in order to grab that song. It leaned heavily upon the radio for its push, though moving units were historically the driving force behind charting on Billboard. However, concurrently, the Billboard charts decidedly altered their charting practices to allow for those songs with only radio airplay to hit the Hot 100. The perfect timing of this switch allowed the song to chart when it previously couldn't have. The song pushed through the charts, cracking the top 25 on the Billboard Hot 100 at number 21, while hitting the top 10 of the U.S. mainstream top 40 at number 6, and topping both the U.S. R&B and hip-hop airplay and U.S. rhythmic charts. It also charted around the world, reaching #1 in New Zealand while hitting the top 10 in the UK dance and R&B charts, as well as Canada and the Netherlands. The song also earned Aaliyah her first Grammy nomination for Best Female R&B Vocal Performance at the 41st Grammy Awards in the May 30th issue of Billboard magazine that year. Larry Flick wrote in his singles column that Aaliyah is on the road to becoming the new queen of soundtrack hits. His words foreshadowed where Aaliyah would later go with other songs like Try Again off Romeo Must Die. Where most divas insist on being the center of the song, she knew how to disappear into the music, how to match her voice to the bass line. It was sometimes difficult to tell one from the other. Khalifa Sennett wrote in 2001 for the New York Times, "This new approach helped change the way popular music sounds. Twitchy, beat-driven songs of Destiny's Child owe a clear debt to Are You That Somebody." Music critic Simon Reynolds called Are You That Somebody the most radical pop single of 1998. A remix was later released featuring various members of the Super Friends crew, including rappers Lonnie B, Danja Moth, and Mad Skills. There was something endearing about Aaliyah, always willing to put lesser known talent on the way others had done for her. The music video was another vital piece to the equation. Directed by Mark Gerard, the video takes place in Cave, Los Angeles, Griffith Park. The video opens at dusk with a motorcycle gang of guys entering the secret cave through a magical force field, as Aaliyah and her girls are waiting for them to arrive. Aaliyah has a hawk perched on her forearm like the hawk in the sky, as scenes alternate between dance sequences directed by Aaliyah's famed choreographer, Fatima Robertson. During Timberland's rap, he's flanked by the members of Playa, which included Static Major, who played the back despite being the lyrical mastermind behind the song. Towards the end of the video, Aaliyah's whole style switches up. Throughout the video, she's in her usual casual garb with cutesy pigtails that layer the top of her crown. But then all of a sudden, she flips it over to a flamenco dance sequence in a dress and high slits on either side and heels. It was almost like there was a visual switch from young girl to young lady, all within the dance and outfits of this one video. It was a bit of a hard sell for Aaliyah, though. The only time that I'd say she needed some convincing on was in the video for Are You That Somebody. Stylist Derek Lee recalled to Vibe in 2016. "That is where we did the skirt and the heels for the end of that video. I had all that stuff made, and I thought it because she was still kind of iffy on it. But Fatima Robinson, the choreographer, was like, no, you need to do that. You got to do it." And she was like, "Okay, if you think this is the right time, then let it be the right time." So that was the only time that she was iffy on something. Lee had the outfit custom designed for her in that scene, as well as another where she's wearing a red Gucci bathing suit top adorned with red Swarovski crystals. Everything was very specific and very intentional. Every dance move, every stitch of fabric that she wore, including the skirt. While wearing a skirt was simply not her thing, she had done it for the Oscars this same year. Though there it felt more like get dressed up, you're at the Academy Awards, like a child dressing up for a wedding. With Are You That Somebody, a pivotal scene in the video couldn't have been accomplished in baggy pants and sneakers, or else the moment would have been lost. The flamenco dance routine called for it, and so Aaliyah did it. The result was a game changer. Not only did fans recognize there were different dimensions to Aaliyah's style, but this was something of a turning point for her. She was no longer a young girl in categorically boys' clothing. She was coming into her own and growing up. The video became the most played across networks like MTV, The Box, and BET in a relatively short amount of time. It was mainly because of everything happening all at once, musically and visually. The beat, the lyrics, the dancing, the costumes, the baby in the background, as Maskell says on the remix, and of course, Aaliyah. To think this song might have never happened had Barry Hankerson not pretended prematurely that it had. We came through before the night ended, Timberland recalled in 2017, and we came through, boy. In 1999, at the 1999 Grammys the following year, Aaliyah was nominated for Best R&B Vocal Performance, but she lost to Lauryn Hill's Doo-Wop That Thing off the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, which swept the Grammys that year. The landscape of hip-hop and R&B was dramatically different from when Aaliyah had first started. Lauryn Hill was at the top of her solo game in 1998, dominating in both worlds of rapping and singing, while also becoming a commercial smash. Likewise, there were plenty of other acts moving through the pipeline. The staple stars like Mariah Carey, Usher, Faith Evans, Janet Jackson, and Whitney Houston were actively releasing projects and singles during the 1998-99 season, along with Aaliyah's earliest competition, Brandy and Monica, who tag teamed on the massive hit The Boy Is Mine. Jennifer Lopez flipped the switch from acting to singing, releasing her debut single, If You Had My Love, as newer artists like Maya were entering the scene, along with Erykah Badu, whose entry came in 1997 thanks to her artistically eccentric debut, Baduizm. Even Genuine released his hit single, So Anxious, during that time period, as R. Kelly was knee-deep in his redemption tour, collaborating with Celine Dion on I'm Your Angel in 1998, and If I Could Turn Back the Hands of Time in 1999. He also collaborated with Puffy on the single Satisfy You. A lot was happening at once in music. Child, them was the days. We ain't getting that today, huh, y'all? However, this was also the era where R&B groups came back into formation. Dru Hill, Total, 112, even Blackstreet were climbing up the charts, though this was also a moment when Destiny's Child was coming into focus. Their self-titled debut album dropped in 1998, and as fast as that arrived, so did the 1999's The Writing on the Wall. This was an album that would bring the group into stardom. Missy Elliott is featured on the project on the song Confessions, which she co-wrote and co-produced. She and Timberland also wrote and produced the track Get on the Bus off the Why Do Fools Fall in Love soundtrack. Later added to the international release of Writing on the Wall, Aaliyah choreographed Destiny's Child music video for Get on the Bus. It's not to say that this group or any other artists were a direct threat or competition to Aaliyah, but there was more traffic in her lane now. Further, by 1999, it had been 3 years since One in a Million was released. Meanwhile, her team was diversifying their respective portfolios. Missy and Tim were on the aforementioned Destiny Child project, while also moving further into their artistry as actual recording artists. In 1997, Missy released her debut album, Super Duper Fly, which altered her course in music. Debuting at number 3 on the Billboard 200, the project showed that Missy could not only craft hits for others, mainly Aaliyah, but she could also give herself some real hits. Her style was abstract, meddling together hip hop and R&B in almost a Warhol-esque way. Aaliyah supported with a feature on the album cut Best Friends. In 1999, Missy followed with The Real World, where Aaliyah appeared on Stickin' Chickens with the Brat. Both projects were produced entirely by Timberland. Missy released the projects on her own vanity label, the Goldmine Inc. Goldmine was the imprint Missy secured when she signed with Elektra as CEO Sylvia Rohn not only wanted Missy on a label, but she also wanted her to find more talent. Missy's artist, Nicole Ray, released her debut album, Make It Hot, under Goldmine, with the title track produced by Timbaland. Everyone from Aaliyah to Genuine, Timbaland, and Playa were in the title track's music video. Timbaland, in turn, released his first project with Magoo, Welcome to Our World, in 1997 through Blackground. Aaliyah sang the hook to the project's first single, Up Jumps the Boogie, also featuring Missy, while also collaborating with them on the album cut Man Undercover. She also appears in the videos for Up Jumps the Boogie and Love to Love You. Timbaland's solo album, Tim's Bio, Life from the Basement, dropped in 1998 with Aaliyah and Missy on the song John Blaze. Playa's aforementioned Cheers to You came in 1998, and Aaliyah guest on that project as well on the song One Man Woman. She appeared on Genuine's song Final Warning off his 1999 album 100% Genuine. Aaliyah was spreading her own wings behind her core team as well. In 1997, she jumped on a remix for a Brooklyn rap outfit, Boot Camp Clique's Night Riders. Boot Camp Clique was the quintessential 90s boom bap rap crew, and Aaliyah's appearance on their song was a big move in combing the worlds of mainstream R&B and street-leaning independent hip-hop. Initially, Aaliyah was slated to be on the original single release, but by 97, her career was on fire, and so was her schedule. So the song was released without her. She kept her promise, though, and hopped on the remix. I wrote that hook with her in mind, with a real soulful vibe, rapper and boot camp de facto leader Buckshot remembers. When I put that track together, people thought I was crazy. It was the first time boot camp was going outside of what people knew boot camp was. These hard street dudes wearing Timbs in the streets in fatigues. Now we're doing a track with Aaliyah and a guitar in the background. Aaliyah was the cousin of boot camp clique member Take of the group Smith & Wesson, which is how the opportunity came. The remix was produced by Grammy Award-winning producer Ninth Wonder. She went in and she did it on the first try, and that was it. Buckshot continues about working with her in the studio. Great singers are like that. Aaliyah then collaborated with Nas on his song, You Won't See Me Tonight, off his 1999 project, I Am. She also grabbed some more soundtrack spots that same year with the song Turn the Page from the Music of the Heart soundtrack, along with the song I Don't Wanna, which first appeared on the Next Friday soundtrack at the end of 1999 and appears again on the Romeo Must Die soundtrack in 2000. The later track was perhaps one of the slicker business moves pulled by Barry Hankerson, whose reputation was continuously growing as the most difficult part about working with Aaliyah. Family and business were beginning to mix and get muddy. The track I Don't Wanna was written and composed by the team, including Jazzy Faye, Jonte Austin, Kevin Hicks, and Donnie Scantz. Hicks and Scantz also produced the song. When the opportunity to work with Aaliyah presented itself, a company called Noontime Music jumped into the race and met with Blackground in New York. They had several songs to audition for Hankerson and Company. I Don't Wanna was one of them. Scantz, a relatively unknown producer, was left behind in Atlanta, yet put together the song before the NYC trip. He was working back at the company's headquarters with another Blackground artist and songwriter, Tank. Nobody knew who did the track, Scantz remember. I get a call while I'm in Atlanta with Tank. They loved the joint. Jonte Austin joined in to write the first verse, Jazzy Faye the second verse. The following day after recording I Don't Wanna, Jazzy cut another track, Come Over, with Aaliyah, which was given to the group Changing Faces instead, with Aaliyah's version released after her passing. That was the most angelic and effortless piece of work I have ever done, and it wasn't even work, Jazzy Faye told Ed Lover on the Come On Son show in 2016. Jazzy described working with her as magical, with some setbacks. You know how God works, and the devil is always right there, Jazzy continued. I ain't gonna say no names, but somebody almost messed up the whole shit. Per Jazzy, Aaliyah's mother, Diane, was there in the studio with them, and everyone was talking for hours like old friends. When Aaliyah comes in, she nicknames everybody. She called me Fuzzy because every time I see you, I get warm and fuzzy, Jazzy says. In the midst of the banter, one of the studio workers interrupts Diane speaking to remind everyone that it's time to get to work. Her mom got up and walked out of the room. Then Aaliyah's phone rang, and she got up and walked out the room. 2 hours later, neither one of them were there. Jazzy called Jomo, met with him, and apologized to Diane. She had never heard our music. She didn't care about it, Jazzy adds. Aaliyah was all upset because she was like, "Oh, Mom, he didn't mean it. Let's work." Whatever she said made everybody like, "We can't go into the studio until Mama says it's okay." It was smooth over, and they finally were able to work, but more business matters piled on. From what I know, Noontime's business deal with Blackground soured, and the shit went all the way south. Scants remember Blackground was like, "Nope, none of them records y'all did with Aaliyah, none of them coming out." They eventually mended fences with Noontime, but at this juncture, it was a no-go. Cut to the Cut to the Next Friday soundtrack, where the song somehow made its way to the hands of the soundtrack's A&R. Noontime owned the license, and so a bid on the track was placed. There was a massive price tag by then for an Aaliyah track. This was the first record that I sold and jumped. This was the first record that I sold and jumped me into the game, Scant said. Noontime sold that record to Priority Records because Priority was licensing the soundtrack to Next Friday. Meanwhile, Blackground circled back and put the highest price on Aaliyah. Scans continued. Blackground was like, "Oh, y'all just gonna feature Aaliyah like that on the record? We need 200,000." Blackground was paid. Priority bought the track back for 43,000 after Next Friday. Blackground was like, "Hold up, we're gonna buy the rights because that 200,000 paid Aaliyah. We're gonna own the rights now." Blackground got the licensing back from Priority and also put the song on the Romeo Must Die soundtrack. So in essence, the label managed to pay their artists with someone else's money while in turn buying back the song to make money of their own. It was a diabolical genius play, though all shrewd business moves aside. Skint said that the song changed, of course, of his career thanks to Aaliyah. He went on to work with other big acts like Jagged Edge, Chris Brown, Pitbull, and Miguel, amongst many others. I did have one time that I had the opportunity to get an acknowledgement from her for making the record, and it was in passing. Skent says, as the two met at an industry event, and Aaliyah thanked him for the song. But my life was forever changed after that instance because it accomplished something for me that I knew that I wanted to do from the beginning, which was work with Aaliyah. I felt like she was the greatest gift that we had that had ever so much more to give us. But she gave us the greatest she had while she was here. I'm happy to be a part of that story. There were a lot of guest features happening for Aaliyah. With little movement on her own album, she was already working on some things with Static, but there was no formal release in sight where she could show significant growth and once again display her constant evolution. For most, it's a cause for concern and fearing their own relevance was hanging in the balance, especially during that era of music. It was a time of major experimentation for both male and female artists. Gone were the days of fitting one specific cookie cutter classification and enter the landscape of originality, king/queen. The more unclassifiable you were, the better. That was Aaliyah's superpower. But now everyone was in on the secret. Sure, there were still none like her, which always gave her an added advantage. Not a single artist out during that time period had anyone saying they remind me of Aaliyah. though even years though even years after her passing, that perhaps remains reiterated. Still, despite having no third album in sight, Aaliyah was appearing on other projects to keep her name out there. Since for many in the music industry, a lengthy absence means you've retired. The competition was getting thicker, however, and her own team was even changing. But there's a thing called faith, and Aaliyah had plenty of it given where she'd come from. So instead of Aaliyah deciding to quickly hop back in the studio, slap together another project, she kept her cool and took her time. She didn't race to the studio. In fact, she did the exact opposite. She headed to the silver screen. So that completes chapter 7. Aaliyah was doing the doggone thing. She was doing the doggone thing. Hey, what's up, Raining? Hey, Suze. Welcome, y'all. So, Aaliyah, it's like she was so successful to where she didn't even really have to spend a whole time working on her own projects. She can collaborate with other people and make her money. And listen, people were paying big dollars to get her to jump on a track. So she was good with that. And then at this point, I mean, she's realizing that listen, she realized that the industry had finally put some respect on her name to where now it's just a matter of like she not really needing to reach out to really request for people to work with her like that. It's almost like people are lining up to want to work for her. So she kind of was in charge. And that's always the position you want to be. You want to be the shot caller, right? And when you're the shot caller, that means, there's dollar bills above your head. So you the money maker. So everybody wanted to align with Leah. But she did come out during a time where there was a lot of heavy hitters out during the 90s. Where she had to compete with Monica, Brandy. Then you had Destiny Child came on the scene, Erykah Badu, Lauryn Hill. That was just a genuine tang. It was just a great time for music. I remember those days. I was in high school during that time. I graduated in 99. So that was a period where just music to me was just like, for me and my generation, like the best for me with, when I think of, the best music ever, I would say like that 90s period, like that was the vibe for me. So I think many people would agree to that, but it's like everything she put out, she topped the charts around the world. She was that girl. Listen, everybody got sweet things to say about her still. And how many people exist, in the industry where you hear nothing but good, positive things said about them. It's the energy. It's the energy. And people appreciated that even though she was a big, huge name, she didn't move like that. She was just very humble and she liked to show love and appreciation for those who were upcoming. Because guess what? Someone had to do that for her at a time. It's like she never forgot where she came from. She was forever grateful still for the opportunity she had with, being able to work with R. Kelly because that opportunity didn't have to take place, even though that it came with a whole bunch of other mess. But that was kind of when she got introduced to the world as the singer Aaliyah. So great chapter. Chapter 8, Romeo Must Die. So now Aaliyah's heading to the big screen. She like, listen, I got 2 albums out. They both did what they need to do. I got some soundtracks out. I then jumped on some other people projects to help them, get motion in the industry to show love and appreciation. And now we got to see what Hollywood's talking about. We got to get up on this big screen. We got to see how we can make it do. We got to get from behind the vocals, and get, into that acting on the big screen. So now she kind of want to switch into that, but that's growth. It's a good thing to grow into, unexplored territory. She's done the soundtracks, but now she's like, yo, I want to act. So look, I don't know how it is in China, but in America, if a girl is kicking your ass, you do not have to be a gentleman. Aaliyah as Trish in Romeo Must Die. So that was I don't know if that was a quote from the movie, but I haven't seen that movie in so long, so y'all don't ask me what had happened in that movie, but I know I seen it. Aaliyah demanded she perform her own stunts. I wanted the audience to be like, wow, she actually got up there and is kicking some butt, she told CNN in 2000. It was a tall order when you're filming a movie that involves kicks, jumps, and fight scenes, but she was up for the challenge. It was also her very first movie role, so she wanted to go big or go home. The film was Romeo Must Die, an action film based loosely upon the Shakespearean tragic love story Romeo and Juliet, where Shakespeare had Capulets and montage at war in the Verona, Italy. Romeo Must Die had two rival gangs in Oakland, California, one being Chinese and the other black. Both families are battling over the same turf. The film is steeped in both martial arts and hip hop as Jet Li makes his English speaking debut here in Hong Sing, the song of rival gang, and the late DMX continues his track record from nailing his role in Belly. Just a year before Romeo Must Die went into production, playing the role of Silk, a club owner caught in the crosshairs. Aaliyah plays the Juliet to Jet Li's Romeo. Her character is Trish O'Day, the fury yet good-hearted daughter of Isaac O'Day, played by Delroy Lindo. It's a modern day love story slash action film with a twist. The concept came from producer Joel Silver, who, along with the fellow producer Jim Van Wyck, wanted to create an American action film that didn't feel dated. Silver's track record in that arena was solid. His resume includes the Lethal Weapon and the Matrix franchise, the first two Die Hard films, and the first two Predator films, among many others. Silver had just released the first Matrix within 2 months of starting production of Romeo Must Die, along with Lethal Weapon 4, which co starred Jet Li. Silver wanted to bring Jet Li further into the American action film industry while also experimenting with new ways to convey martial art fight scenes, which included the application of X-ray vision, similar to the spacey effects found in The Matrix. The Matrix also borrowed from the kung fu movie technique called wire fu, where fight scenes wire assisted using pulleys and shot to create these dramatic action moments. Romeo Must Die also utilizes this, though it's arguably more fitting here since Jet Li was actually a martial arts star, particularly in wushu, which is Chinese kung fu. Aaliyah with Lorenzo D. Bonaventura, then a studio executive at Warner Brother Pictures, and told him her vision for her first acting role. D. Bonaventura then introduced her to Silver. After a screen test, she landed the role. Her acting was impressive from the start, as Silver later cast Aaliyah for the role of Z in The Matrix Reloaded, following one, as well as The Matrix Revolutions. Cinematographer Andre Bartz also made his directorial debut with Romeo Must Die, which kicked off a track record of other action films, including two more with DMX, Exit Wounds, and Cradle to the Grave, the later of which also stars Jet Li. The screenplay was written by Eric Burt and John Jarrell. Hip hop and martial arts have a long standing history. Rappers often recall growing up in households where grainy kung fu flicks were playing, which first introduced them to the art of physical battle. Barry Gordy's 1985 film The Last Dragon reinforced that connection on big screen. Though hip hop artists turned towards old kung fu movies like 1972's Five Fingers of Death as early inspiration, then of course Wu-Tang Clan jumped into the 90s with their own brand of martial arts inspired hip hop, even renaming their Staten Island stomping grounds as Shaylin. Later, hip hop artists like Migos and Kendrick Lamar have also sent nodes back to martial arts. The later affectionately referred to themselves as Kung Fu Kenny, a callback to Rush Hour's 2 film, which was another fusion of hip hop and martial arts. With Romeo Must Die, there was a combination of traditional fight scenes mixed with high speed chases, violence, a few categorically gory scenes, and yes, a romance, though the later was more implied than enforced. There was a 16-year age difference between Jet Li and Aaliyah. And while that large gap wasn't a focal point of the film, it did seem to affect their on screen romance. The two never kissed on screen. There were a number of factors that were blamed for this, though it was really all speculation. Some felt it was the age difference that made the romance seem less desirable and unfortunate throwback to Aaliyah's past, while others speculated that racism towards Asian actors deemed them undesirable and unsexy to anyone outside of Hollywood. So it was best to imply that the two were in love rather than physically express it. On top of that, having an Asian man and a black woman in a relationship on screen was also rumored to be less appealing had it played out as visibly romantic for the audience. There was a kissing scene filmed, though it happened right after Jet Li's father in the film commits suicide. It was written off as an insensitive moment to wedge in a kissing scene that was allegedly deemed untolerable. Regardless of the motive behind there being no love scene, there was still considerable chemistry between Aaliyah and Jet Li in the film. Aaliyah was a natural at acting, and considering her emergence in almost every facet of entertainment prior to this moment, all signs prove that Hollywood was next for her. She had roots in entertainment since she was a kid, so this was merely a progression of what she already created over the years. Her stunts were over the top, but at least she did them herself, which included one scene where Jet Li's character uses Aaliyah's body to fight a female nemesis since he wouldn't strike a woman. She high kicks and swirls against his body while still somehow looking like she's dancing. Aaliyah went through 1 month of training for the one action scene, since again she turned down a stunt double. The scene was rehearsed over and over until they were ready to shoot, which in of itself took 3 days. Martial arts weren't a foreign concept to Aaliyah either. I used to take martial arts when I was 7 or 8, she said in an interview during the film's press junket. It sparked my interest again. The idea of turning the scene into a martial arts dance was Jet Li's. I am so glad I had the chance to work with Aaliyah, Jet Li told Hello Beautiful in 2020. She's charming, beautiful. It was a great experience in my life. Filming started in early May 1999 in Vancouver. DMX was brought on when Aaliyah and Joe Silver paid him a visit. When I was on tour, her and Joe Silver came to my dressing room to see if I wanted to be a part of the movie, DMX told Billboard's 2011. Most people would have people call, but she came herself. I'm like, is this a trick question? You have to ask me if I want to be in a movie with Aaliyah? Hell yeah. He then met the cast and crew in Vancouver to start filming. He described her presence on scene as sexy but kind of gangster. Scattered throughout the film are little winks to Aaliyah's fans, only further proving that the film was really intended for her fan base. In one scene of the film, there's a toy orangutan, which was actually a real life gift to Aaliyah from her late grandmother, Mentis, that she carried with her. The record store scene, Lil Kim's hardcore poster in the window, along with the poorly placed poster of R. Kelly's album are. There are also moments throughout the film where either Aaliyah is dancing to her own music at the club, or again in a record store scene, her song is blaring through the speakers as Anthony Anderson's character Maurice exclaimed, "This is my shit right here." He later goes on to look for Trish and refers to her as your Aaliyah looking ass. The film did well globally with a 25 million budget. Romeo Must Die made over 18 million the opening week of its release, March 22nd, 2000. Domestically, it made 55 million And internationally, it made, let me see, 35 million, ranking in over 91 million in the combined sales. Despite critics feeling that Aaliyah and Jet Li lacked significant romantic chemistry on screen, Aaliyah's performance was favorably reviewed. Elvis Mitchell of the New York Times wrote, Romeo is a come on with cooling hip hop songs popping up whenever Aaliyah, who's a natural, glides across the screen. Mitchell also predicted the success of the film based upon that hip hop element. Dreary as it is, Romeo is bound to be a hit, thanks to its well selected and well to wall hip hop soundtrack, particularly good songs by Timbaland and yes, Aaliyah. That's so pervasive. Romeo might as well be a musical, Mitchell continues. The Romeo Must Die soundtrack became a moment for hip hop, due largely to the number of Aaliyah tracks on the project. It arguably served to state fans as they anxiously waited for the third album to arrive. The soundtrack was released under Black Ground and featured Timberland, Magoo, Playa, Genuine, and other acts like Destiny's Child, Joe, Mac 10, BG of Hot Boys, and Shantae Moore, among others. Aaliyah's song helped propel the album up the charts as it reached number 3 on the Billboard 200 and number 1 on the U.S. Top R&B Hip Hop Albums chart. It also made its marks overseas, touching places like Australia, Austria, the UK, Switzerland, New Zealand, and Germany, all within top 20 charting positions. Aaliyah brought some hits with her. She and DMX continued their creative momentum for the soundtrack on the song Come Back in One Piece. The track is a hip hop love song where Aaliyah lightly pleads with DMX to come back home safely in one piece when he's done running the streets. They arguably have more romantic chemistry than her and Lee in the song's music video directed by Lil X, where Aaliyah went to DMX's stomping ground to film it. We did the video in Mount Vernon and Yonkers. I got to bring Aaliyah to the hood, DMX continued to Billboard. Not many people can say that. The international double A side to Come Back in One Piece was aforementioned I Don't Wanna, which beat the DMX sister track as it reached a charting position on Billboards at number 5 on the U.S. Hot R&B Hip Hop Songs chart, at number 35 on the Billboard Hot 100, number 22 on the U.S. Rhythmic Are You Feeling Me wasn't released as a single, though it was later filed under Aaliyah's Deep Cuts and also appears in a pivotal scene in the movie. And then, of course, came Try Again. The track at its core was designed for empowerment, as Static Major wanted to create an inspirational song where the hook says, dust yourself off and try it again. It originally says, you can be a fireman. The track was also about living out your dreams and making them come true. You can do anything. That's what he had written. Jimmy Douglas remembers. And then Barry was like, that's kind of cool, but you got to put some love in there, man. Otherwise, it ain't going anywhere. So Static restarted and changed it into dust yourself off and try again. And then he made some of the metaphors about love instead. Get knocked down in love and just getting back up. And there's a hit record. Much like Are You That Somebody? Aaliyah wasn't in love with the song at first, but once she got into the studio and added her own sublets to it, she became more used to it. The song was chosen as the lead single for the Romeo Must Die soundtrack. So Aaliyah was forcibly made to feel comfortable with whatever would happen with the song and wherever it would land. Little did she know. Try Again capulated Aaliyah to another level. It was more than just Timberland's little ode to Eric B. and Rakim, I Know You Got Soul, where he opens the track with the line, It's been a long time. We shouldn't have left you, over the hazy sense of the intoxicating beat. It was more than the transformative meaning behind the song, where there was once a cut listing all the possible occupations you could become involved into the melody about telling someone to keep trying if they really want to. It was Aaliyah front and center, yet still remaining elusive. By this point, she was a pro at tackling Timberland's beats, knowing when to fade in and to fade out, even when she was simply repeating the same lines over and over again until we all understood. Try again. Try Again helped smuggle the innovative techniques of electronic dance music onto the American pop charts. Ch.7-9 wrote for the New York Times, and it established Aaliyah as pop music's most futuristic star. Years later, producers from all genres still seek to find that creative balance that Timberland and Aaliyah struck on. Try Again. Electronic producers are in search of ethereal female voices to glaze over their genius beats while allowing their sound to remain the star of the show. Likewise, singers actively seek out producers who will elevate their sounds by hugging their vocals with pleasant noises to make hits that are no longer their sole responsibility. In both of those regards, Aaliyah actually failed. She was never an accessory to the production. Her star power was a force of nature. Even when she tried to let something other than her shine, it was nearly impossible. It was a humble glow, but a glow nonetheless. And while Try Again was once again a miracle within a soundtrack, it was yet another building block for what was to come for Aaliyah's rise to the top. While the track made history in its sound, it also made history on the charts. Try Again was released on February 22nd, 2000, and by the week of March 18th, it made its debut on Billboard Hot 100 at number 58. By the week of June 17th, it reached the top of the chart, making it the first single to crack the number one slot through radio airplay alone. It also reached number one on the U.S. Rhythmic chart and made the top 5 on the U.S. mainstream top 40 and the U.S. hot R&B hip hop songs. Globally, it reached the top 5 across the UK charts, even getting to number 2 on the UK R&B charts, and the top 5 in Norway, Portugal, and the Netherlands, Germany, Iceland, Denmark, Canada, and Belgium, as well as top 10 and top 20 across other territories. Danette Chavez of the AV Club said that the song serves as a far better legacy for Aaliyah than the movie from which it sprang. The music video was directed by Wayne Isham and is a combination of the futuristic vibes of the song mixed with recreated scenes from the movie, along with clips of some actual scenes. Jet Li makes a cameo in the video, shadow boxing through a hall of mirrors, with Timberland in the cut, mouthing lines and beatboxing against those same mirrors. And then there is Aaliyah. I knew Try Again was going to be the best dance video, and she was going to wear one outfit for the entire thing, Derek Lee recalled to Nylon. So it had to be really strong and really her. The goal was to take her signature style of a bra top or midriff and baggy pants and completely elevate it. He chose to do that with a Dolce Gabbana crystal bra top, complete with a matching choker and belt. Her pants were loose but not sagging, with chains affixed to either side of her rotating hips. Her hair is pinned straight and parted down the middle. Her eye makeup is dark, shadowy, and dramatic. The look became so iconic that it was chosen as Aaliyah's outfit for the 2019 unveiling of her wax figure at Madame Tussauds in Las Vegas. Celebrities like Kim Kardashian even replicated the look on Halloween in 2017. There are moments throughout the video where Aaliyah is dancing, but also a part where she mimics a fight scene. Since she was already a master of wire work during the film of the movie, she even climbs the side of the wall while guided by Jet Li in the music video. In September 2000, Aaliyah took home the MTV VMAs for Best Video from a Film and Best Female Video, beating out pop titans Britney Spears for Oops, I Did It Again, and Christina Aguilera for What a Girl Wants, respectively. It was proof of the song and the video's reach. To win against pop darlings showed Aaliyah had become one herself. She even flew 22 hours with her brother from Australia during her Queen of the Dam filming just to show up at the award show ceremony. It was well worth it. She was clad in her memorable Robert Cavalli yellow and black zebra striped dress with a fur fringe slit that revealed her one leg. Aaliyah was evolving in so many ways. While Try Again was a hit, it still served as a reminder that a singer was acting. That wouldn't be for long, since her next role was geared to be the one that would allow Aaliyah to make the seamless move from music to film. I want to do films in the future where I don't do any music, she told MTV Europe Select in 2000. And then I like to do it again. So listen, Aaliyah did that. She finally got those awards. I mean, those songs she beat out with Christina Aguilera and Britney Spears, those were big hit songs. I mean, I remember that time when those songs were like playing like in heavy rotation. Like, so to know that she beat out them, it really lets you know how huge that song, I guess that was for Try Again, how huge that song was. It just seems like as we're reading every song, it just seems like it's just outdoing the next one. Like she just keeps just outdoing herself. She's outdoing herself. So listen, that's what it's about. Hey, what's up, Francis? What's up? She's outdoing herself. Francis, at what chapter is she on? I am on, I'm on chapters. Well, actually, we just completed chapter 8. I just completed chapter 8. So tonight I read chapter 7, 8, and I am going to read chapter 9. So we just do 3 chapters at a time, child. So yeah, so we got through chapter 8. So now we are about to get into chapter 9. The way I kind of spaced it out is we're doing for each live like 3 chapters, because some chapters have been longer than others. I've been getting through these faster than usual, so I don't know if they're starting to shorten up. I don't know. But y'all, it's a good book. Like I'm learning a lot about just historical moments just in black music, things that I didn't know. You know, back then you just hearing the songs, like, you know, it's a bop, you playing it. But a lot of us, you know, weren't paying attention to the accolades and the celebrations behind the songs. It was just a time for just good music back then, like during the like mid to like late 90s going into early 2000s. So Aaliyah was doing a doggone thing. Welcome you all. Please like, share, subscribe. We are about to enter into chapter 9. Take it personal. Take it personal. So Aaliyah feeling herself. She like, all right, then I think I got this acting thing down packed. Now I want to do some acting and not do music. So I want y'all to fully focus on my ability to act. We ain't gonna be singing no no lullabies. We just finna focus on my acting skills. Y'all finna see what I can do with just acting alone. Cause it seems like she wants to be respected as like an actress. I guess she likes shit. I didn't already master singing. I'm trying to master this acting thing. Master this acting thing. So let's see. She said, I'm a very mysterious person. And when you first meet me, I don't really think you know where I'm coming from. It takes a while to get to know me. I think it's because I take my time to get to know people. You're going to get someone who's affordable, who's nice, but you're not going to get the whole picture of Aaliyah for a while. That was quoted by Aaliyah in Teen Magazine in 1999. So Miss Aaliyah says she's pretty much a mysterious one. Like she'll reveal something, but you're not going to kind of get all of her like up front. You're like, it's going to take a minute, but in all essence, she's going to be, you know, nice and sweet to you. But y'all don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. She's saying, she's like, y'all better see about her in that Romeo Must Die video, because she got some moves. So don't listen. Don't start no one be none. That's basically what that translates to. Aaliyah originally started working on the Aaliyah album in 1998, cutting some preliminary tracks in the studio. It was 2 years after One in a Million, so the timing was ideal. However, with Aaliyah's growing field starter, her long-awaited third album was put on pause to focus on her new career extension. Songs like Are You That Somebody and Try Again clearly kept her afloat musically, so by 2000, the world was more than ready for her to get back into the studio and start working on her album again. By then, however, a few things had changed. In May 2000, the announcement was made that Aaliyah would be moving from Atlantic Records to Virgin Records. It wasn't the most surprising move. The Romeo Must Die soundtrack was a joint release in March of that year through Blackground and Virgin, with co-financing through Warner Brothers Records, which is under the same umbrella as Atlantic. In 2 months' time, news circulated that Aaliyah was so impressed with how Virgin handled the Romeo rollout that she decided to make the label her new home and push Blackground into pursuing a joint venture. By August 2000, the deal was finalized for an estimated $15 million. In the deal announcement, Hits Daily doubled also noted, in addition to the $15 million, Blackground is also expected to receive new business cards and several lifetime subscriptions to AOL. Timberland was mentioned in the release as dropping his project in February 2001, but that never happened. He dropped his collaborative follow-up, Indecent Proposal with Magoo, in November, 3 months after Aaliyah's passing. A shift started happening. Business with Blackground was souring for everyone, primarily for Missy and Timberland. When the time came to record Aaliyah's third album, Timberland and Missy weren't going to be a part of it at all. The plan was for Aaliyah to record the project while she was filming Queen of the Dam, which involved the team heading out to Australia. With Missy and Timberland seemingly removed from the equation, Aaliyah had begun forming a new circle through the Static, pun fully intended. Enter again Static Major. Stephen Static Major Garrett was born in Louisville, Kentucky, raised in a church. He met his two friends named Jawan Smokey Peacock and Benjamin Digital Black Bush in high school. They formed a group, A Torch of Class, in 1990. By 91, Static had already dropped out of school but remained with the guys. Jodeci was on tour and had to stop in Louisville, and Smokey's mother managed to get them backstage. They sang Jodeci's song Stay for Devontae while backstage, and Devontae gave them his pager number. He also later renamed them Playa. After some time, Static started to get cabin fever within the confines of Louisville. He wanted out badly. So he reached out to Devontae, who brought Playa out to New Jersey, where they first met Timberland and Missy, along with Genuine and Magoo. They signed to Swing Mob shortly thereafter and were all holed up in the toxic upstate compound with everyone else. While there, Static helped Timberland piece together Genuine's Pony Track while simultaneously contributing to Jodeci's album like everyone else. Static had a gift that few singers, songwriters, and producers possess. He was able to really emulate the artists he was working with. It was almost as if he wore them while making music for them. When he helped write and produce Pony, he also sang on the song so similarly to Genuine that it was almost as if you had no idea where Genuine ended and Static began. He would later bring that superpower to other artist projects, most notably Lil Wayne's Grammy Award-winning song Lollipop in 2008. That same year, while shooting the music video for Lollipop in Las Vegas, Static wasn't feeling well. He flew back home to Louisville, leaving his flight in a wheelchair when they landed, and was later admitted to Baptist Hospital East. He was diagnosed with a disease called myasthenia gravis, which is an autoimmune disease that causes neuromuscular issues within the body's skeletal system, igniting heightened levels of fatigue. It was recommended he have a procedure done where a catheter is inserted through either the neck or the arm to filter the blood, much like how kidney patients do with dialysis. The blood was supposed to be filtered of its antibodies. And when it was inserted, Static said he immediately felt something was wrong. When the nurse attempted to remove the catheter from his neck, Static went into a state of respiratory distress, convulsed, and bled to death. Lord Jesus. He died on February 25th, 2008, at the age of 33. The rumored cause was an aneurysm, though his family suspected malpractice, giving the success rate of this procedure in any other instance. Even the doctor said he was supposed to make a full recovery within a day. A year later, his wife, Avanti Garrett, sued the hospital, a case she later settled outside of court. His passing was another grim example of a real talent not being able to truly realize the depths of his gifts while on earth. Sparks flew when Static first met Aaliyah in more ways than one. And while Are You That Somebody was their cute secret love letter that turned into a giant billboard for the world to admire, Static still lived in Timberland's shadow when it came to really helping Aaliyah shape her sound. That was until Timberland wasn't there. Static Major was at the helm of Aaliyah's third album, as he had already dated Aaliyah and remained her good friend. There was a different kind of chemistry happening. While Aaliyah and Static were about 4 years apart in age, it was an entirely different dynamic from her last creative relationship that turned personal. Aaliyah was of age, and the lyrics Static wrote for her were based more on building upon her growth and revealing some forbidden love. Her parents had made the move to start monitoring her lyrics now, so in the end, they had the final say on a lot of what was created for Aaliyah. But in Static's hands, they shared a commonality. Their creative intimacy allowed for the lyrics to be even more personal to Aaliyah. He was able to write for her so well because he knew her language, Static's mother told Vibe. Their sessions were different from one she'd had in the past. Here she would sit with Static and discuss her life, and he would write to her thoughts. He didn't have to improvise and imagine what she might be going through, nor did he create a world for her where she would come in and make it hers. She was telling him what her vision was, and in turn, he was putting it all together with her, not for her. It's different from the last LPs because I'm older, I'm more mature, Aaliyah said in her behind the scenes interview for the album. I think that's very evident on the album. So it really showcases Aaliyah and who she is right now. Aaliyah also started working with other songwriters and producers where Static was primarily the conduit, though it was still a black brown experience. Darrell Babs, better known as Black Brown R&B singer Tank, came through to help write for the project along with Static's player partner Benjamin Bush, known as Digital Black. More background producers joined in too, like J. Dub Walker and Stephen Buddha Anderson. Rapture Stewart and Eric Seats, known collectively as Key Beats, had worked on the Romeo Must Die soundtrack and jumped in now for Aaliyah's new project. Together, they all joined forces to create a new iteration of Aaliyah, and through their collective efforts, a project that would not only solidify her stardom, but also serve as the perfect uh, accompaniment to her Hollywood takeover. The new team was ready to work with Aaliyah as the boss. The first step was to create enough tracks stateside to bring overseas. Static wanted to make sure that they didn't reach the new continent empty handed. So, a month prior to heading to Australia, the newly assembled team gathered in Sony Studios in New York and got started. On that particular album, we collectively just wanted to make the best possible album that we could. Rapture told website, You Know I Got Soul in 2011. It was really like a family type of thing. There wasn't any hostility recording that album, and that's why the album came out the way it did. No one was competing to try to outproduce somebody else. There was also the idea that everyone was valuable and the vital piece to the puzzle. Everybody had their own style to bring to the table, he continued. So that made it collective. That made it a collective effort from everybody because we knew each person was going to bring fire to the project. So it wasn't even an issue. The only real competition was ensuring that each producer and songwriter was represented since they were working with since let me see, it was only one album, but for everyone involved, it was a chance to really shine. Aaliyah had market value that some hadn't experienced before. Being a part of the project really meant something, and everyone knew it. With the work they had previously done in New York City, a blueprint was laid so that Aaliyah could easily record once she got to Australia. And so when we got there, it was like, okay, she can film the movie during the day and we would go to the lab at night. Manager Tim Barnett remembers. And so we all stayed in the Como Melbourne Hotel where they right there on Chapel Street. And it was crazy too because she had just signed that new deal with Virgin. She was doing a Matrix movie and then she had did Romeo Must Die and she was doing Queen of the Dam. A lot was going on. Chapel Street is the Australian equivalent to Melrose or Rodeo Drive. Our money was worth double over there anyway, Barnett says. And we're over there on Aaliyah's budget. The team stayed over the course of a few months, had room service 3 times a day, and even took in some nightlife while creating what some consider to be Aaliyah's magnum opus. They recorded in Melbourne's Sing Sing studio, which was within walking distance of their hotel. It just really gave Static more reign, Barnett adds, though he made it clear that Aaliyah was the leader. Even when she would defer to Static, he would push her back into the lead. It was so dope just watching the chemistry that those two had, Barnett continues. And watching Static produce her vocals and say, oh, nah, 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 you should do it like this or try it like this. Static really pushed her to make it her record, make it Aaliyah's record. The team was comprised of songwriters and producers. The team was comprised of songwriters and producers, would move from room to room throughout the studio, bouncing ideas off of one another. It was almost a replication of what Static experienced with Swing Mob and The Basement. Only here, there was far less competition, much more camaraderie, and the end result was to make sure that Aaliyah had the greatest masterpiece possible. To be honest, it was surreal. Buddha, also known as You Know I Got Soul in 2011, we got to bond on different levels because we were in another country and you guys are all you got. Aaliyah was on a rigorous schedule where she was filming, then recording, and taking some time here and there to decompress. But really, she saw the film line in front of her. There was an album and a movie to be made, and she was going to do both concurrently, and they would both be game changing. With the album in particular, she already knew that she was holding all of the cards in making this project her most personal one yet. It's the reason why she chose to name the album Aaliyah, because for the first time, she really felt like the album was specifically about her and for her, much like the meaning of her name, the highest and the most exalted one, the best. She wanted the album to be held in the highest regard. I wanted the name to really carry the project, Aaliyah continued in her behind the scenes interview. Static left Australia in November and Aaliyah stayed with some of the other teams to finish up. Barnett made sure she stuck to the studio routine that she and Static had created during her movie filming. They returned stateside around Christmas Eve. A few of the tracks were in the running to be the first singles. Loose Rap featuring Static was one of them, and what became her final single was also in the lead for the first. A lot of us was like Rock the Boat could have been it, Barnett remembers. Rock the Boat could have been the first one. There were a few reasons why it wasn't. For one, the suggestive nature of the song didn't sit right with the label as Aaliyah's first single, coming back out after a lengthy hiatus. Granted, she was grown, but starting right out the gate with very vivid wordplay about sex through lines like work the middle just didn't seem like the best course of action for her triumphant return. Second, Barry was adamant that the first single be Timberlands, regardless of their current situation. Third, this would be the third time in a row Aaliyah had a total team switch on her project if Timberland was nowhere to be found. There wasn't a part of Aaliyah's brand where she would purposely use an entirely different team with every album, since they publicly preach about their sense of community. Moving into the second project, it was obvious why she needed a new environment. But for the third project, it would look suspicious, indicative either of problems at Blackground, which was true, or that Aaliyah was difficult to work with, which wasn't true. Timberland had to be a part of it somehow to save face for Aaliyah's sake. While Timberland was still reluctant to get involved with the third album, Aaliyah was the one to convince him to do it. Out of love for her and not allegiance to her uncle, he finally agreed to have a partner project. Right after the new year, we flew to New York and we did. We need a resolution with Timberland, Bartlett says. We did more than a woman with Timberland, and we did Don't Know What to Tell You. We did those three joints because Barry and them wanted Tim to have a single. You know how it goes in the industry. They reconvened at the beginning of 2001 at the studio in New York City's Manhattan Center to bring Timberland back into fold. However, things had drastically changed. All of her trust was now placed in Static Major. We'd be in the studio, me and Aaliyah, and she would listen to me. Jimmy Douglas remembers, like, it's kind of producing the vocals and they already down, but I'm producing how it should work, right? And how it should sound, doing whatever we need to do. Things changed this last go around. When we get to this last moment, she suddenly doesn't have the confidence in me to want to do that anymore, he says. And I felt it. I felt a little bit, not slighted, but I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, it's just me and you. No, Static had to come. And he had to sit there and do what I normally do with her, which is director. Timberland only produced his own tracks and wrote his rap on We Need a Resolution. Static wrote Aaliyah's part. The last Timberland contribution also included Missy by Proxy. It was I Care For You, a song that wasn't new but reworked for the project. At first, it was in consideration for One in a Million, but then they decided against it. That song we actually had about 2 years before with some young kids that Barry Hankerson has signed to his label, Blackground, and it never had Douglas ads. They never got released or whatever, but that track Missy had written, that song was a perfect ballad for Aaliyah's project since it needed one. So the beat was flipped and parts resung to be refitted for the album, becoming one of its strongest ballads where Aaliyah is professing her love to someone emphatically yet impressively, still maintaining her swagger. Before Timbaland agreed to come on board, Loose Rap was going to be released as the first single. But then the decision was finalized for We Need a Resolution to be the official singer. I'm tired of arguing, girl. Timbaland repeats that line over and over in opening We Need a Resolution. The production uses a woozy Middle Eastern style sample borrowed by John's Ottman tricks of the trade. Art imitates life in the song as the lyrics from both Timberland and Aaliyah reflect a very obvious argument, which, like Timberland says, they're tired of. It becomes volleying of bars. Aaliyah coyly asks if he slept on the wrong side of the bed because she's catching a bad vibe from him and is and is urging him to speak up. Meanwhile, Timberland has had enough of the back and forth. Sure, the song was packaged as as a lover's quarrel, but really it was them saying to each other, we need a resolution." It was money, it was egos, it was fame, it was also Blackground, and Aaliyah was caught in the crosshairs of that as both an artist, part owner, and family member. But even through the storm, they worked together for one more go around and made some hits. In addition to We Need a Resolution, Timberland produced bonus track Don't Know What to Tell Ya, where he also utilizes a Middle Eastern style sample, this time from that one is Beak from the Allegrian singer Warda Algeria. The song talks of Aaliyah refusing to be tied down by a controlling relationship as she compares it to incarceration. The final Timberland offering is the potent More Than a Woman, which became Aaliyah's battle cry even after her passing. Again, he uses a Middle Eastern sample from Syrian artist Mayada El Hinway's song titled Alui and Ansa. The Middle Eastern sampling continued to appear in Timberland's catalog. He added a heavy Punjabi Bagra sound for Missy's Get Your Freak On in 2001 and collaborated with Indian hip hop artist Rajesh Swarhi for his Under Construction 2 track, Indian Flute with Magoo in 2003. Other artists followed suit with that new avenue for sampling. Even with their final collaborations, Timberland and Aaliyah changed the game one last time. Timberland's contributions to Aaliyah's project were important, and when placed alongside the rest of the work, it made a well rounded album. The crux of the project was changing Aaliyah's narrative. For so much of the album work, there was a younger, flirtier vibe to her songs. The love songs were more about longing and sometimes secrecy than actually having a real relationship. With Aaliyah, it was different. She was discussing things that can happen in actual relationships outside of the fantasy of it all. And working with a team who bonded so tightly after their trip to Australia made it all the more personal for everyone involved. Aforementioned, loose rap was futuristic meets melody as Aaliyah pushes back on her man offering lip service. Some even took it as a diss track against her haters. The same fluid style, key beats production also appears on the erotic Rock the Boat, It's Whatever, and Those Were the Days they adapted to a Timberland style of production on tracks like Extra Smooth, You Got Nerve, and the hidden track Messed Up. Buddha gave her the ball, never no more, and read between the lines while pushing her to her creative limits on the electro rock inspired I Can Be, where she's accepting the position of being the other woman. J Dub brought a similar vibe on What If while bringing another mid tempo ballad on I Refuse. Aaliyah was like a chameleon. She became every track on the album. As a huge Nine Inch Nails fan, she wanted to show she had rock edge. She and Trent Reznor even talked about working together. Aaliyah would have been the perfect kickoff for a new sound. The album was a combination of romantic and explorative, where the lyrics noticeably mature, yet Aaliyah sang them like they were autobiographical. The music was equally a part of her. It felt like for perhaps the first time, this was a project specifically made for her. Yes, on her first and second work, she did what it was that she did what it was that she's the best at doing, interpretation. Aaliyah could take a piece of music and immediately make it her own. Here, I felt like the music was her own from the start, and in turn, she made it ours. The packaging of the album, from the liner's notes to the physical CD, was red, so it became known as the Red Album. The ultimate goal with the Red Album was to bring Aaliyah to the next level of her life. It was a coming of age project as she was now an adult experiencing adult things at an adult's pace. Reviews for the album recognized that there was a shift in Aaliyah's sound. Aaliyah provides a missing link between hip hop and electronica. Journalist Sal Sink writes in his review for Slant Magazine, following in the footsteps of some of today's biggest icons. Aaliyah has learned how to align herself with A-list producers without losing her individuality and instead makes the sound of her own. BBC writer Daryl Elsey wrote, Aaliyah is a fascinating work. It shows a 22-year-old artist truly finding her direction, delivering well-tailored material with elan. The review from the AV Club recognized that she was escaping the shadow of her mentors, finally a show business veteran at 22. Aaliyah has often been overshadowed by her collaborators, writes Nathan Rabin. But her strikingly assured third album establishes the young overachiever as a major artist in her own right. The project was widely regarded as experimental, showing how Aaliyah was tinkering with new sounds and styles and formulating a whole new blueprint for herself in the wake of her passing. Uh, Showing a whole new blueprint for herself. In the wake of her passing, it became more of an unfortunate example of unrealized potential where Aaliyah was just warming up for a bright future ahead of her. But there was something far greater to glean from the Aaliyah project. Through every album, Aaliyah's songwriters and producers were regarded as the geniuses who helped define her sound. Yet, through three projects, she worked with predominantly three different teams. The only true constant was Aaliyah, and her eponymous project solidified that reality for everyone. It was Aaliyah who was the genius all along. She was the thread woven through the project, bringing the fabric of the work to life. It was more than just having the right person in her corner, writing her songs, producing her beats. The magic of her touching that music was what captivated the audience. These weren't songs that could have been handed off to just anyone. No, it was Aaliyah's ability to take a song and run with it. She accomplished that with her first project and her second, and it was finally understood that she was the true star of the show with her last. The positioning of the album alongside its peers was something so behold, mainly through the progression of Aaliyah's influence over other artists. In 2001, we witnessed an influx of R&B and hip hop leaning albums from both new and established acts. Mary J. Blige delivered No More Drama as Jennifer Lopez was on her second album, the more rap infused J Lo. Alicia Keys made her big debut with Songs in A Minor as well. There were countless comeback albums in the mix too, yet where Aaliyah was positioned marked both a cause and effect of sorts. So many artists by 2001 had borrowed notes from Aaliyah's playbook over the course of her career, either by incorporating dancier, more electronic blips into their interpretation of R&B or through female artists fully embracing a tomboy chic style as they sang their songs. There was also a fusion with hip hop that Aaliyah perfected through her work with Timberland and Missy, where you didn't necessarily need a rap feature, but you could immediately tell the essence of the song had strong hip hop roots. The Red album posthumously took home several awards. In 2002, Aaliyah won Favorite Soul R&B Female Artist and Favorite Soul R&B Album in the American Music Awards. A year later, she won Favorite Soul R&B Female Artist again. In 2003, she also won Top R&B and Hip Hop Artist Female at Billboard Auburn R&B Hip Hop Awards. She also won a MOBO Award and an NAACP Image Award, an NME Award, a Soul Train Award, and two Soul Train Lady of Soul Awards. She was also nominated for 3 Grammys. Most of the album's visuals were unfortunately rolled out posthumously, save for the first single. We Need a Resolution is sectioned off into parts, where in some scenes Aaliyah is spacey and futuristic, and in some parts she's even levitating. In others, she's keeping it street. And of course, there are the unforgettable scenes where she is wrapped in a python, a testament to her love of snakes. We want an exclusive peek into her life. So the idea there was to create a sense that every room, every scenario that you're looking at something that only certain people can see. Director Paul Hunter told Vibe in 2016. It's almost like if you've ever seen a celebrity in the airport, they're going into a first class lounge or they're going into a private hallway. They sort of slip past you. The idea was to have this experience where we create these rooms that felt like they were exclusive. Timberland is in the scenes where he's rhyming and ad-libbing, though he and Aaliyah never share any camera time. Her makeup was dark and commanding, like she was already winning the argument with her face. The whole look we did for the We Need a Resolution video came from stuff that I saw on a runway from Alexander McQueen and John Galliano. Eric Farrell told Vibe in 2016. Every idea I brought to Aaliyah, she was like, well, why don't we just do this? The remaining videos were spaced in their rollout following Aaliyah's passing. The first that came was More Than a Woman, directed by Dave Meyers, was introduced to Aaliyah through Damon Dash. I remember Damon telling me I better make his girlfriend look good, Myers expressed to Vibe. Myers directed videos for Dash's Rockefeller Records, primarily Jay-Z, most prominently Izzo Hova. In working with Aaliyah, Myers explained how she approached him with almost a vision board for the video's concept. She was pulling tears out the magazine. She was pulling tears out the magazines and sharing those with me, Myers said. It was a little bit more of how she wanted to present herself, and I built the world around her with the motorcycle and the lights and dance. In the video for More Than a Woman, Aaliyah is dancing inside of a motorcycle, proudly donning her boyfriend's Rockefeller chain throughout. The scenery is like the inside of the engine, complete with gears and coils that doubles as dance floor where Mark Ronson is DJing. Other cameos include Kadada Jones and her sister, actor Rashida Jones, who was dating Mark Ronson at the time. The video was released concurrently with the release of Rock the Boat as a single. While bittersweet at its best, the Rock the Boat video was released in Aaliyah's honor. Hype Williams' bright, beachy visuals were a reminder of Aaliyah's light and her ultimate place in the sun. From dancing on boats to the Bahamian beachside, she looked peaceful and happy. The final video didn't feature Aaliyah at all. It was for a posthumous release single, Miss You, which started as a song for Genuine. We played her a couple of tracks, and that particular track happened to kind of pass by. Aaliyah was like, wait a minute, back up. I want to hear that again. Producer and songwriter Teddy Bishop recalled to the You Know I Got Soul in 2012. We played it for her, and she was like, I want to cut this record. And we were like, well, this is Genuine record. Aaliyah wanted to cut the record for herself. She got on the phone, called him, and said, hey, I know you cut this record already, but I would love to cut it. Genuine, because he was part writer on the song, it benefited him anyway. Genuine told her to cut it, and we cut it on Aaliyah, and it went on to be a #1 hit. In the video, artists like Lil Kim, Missy Elliott, Tweet, DMX, Quincy Jones, Queen Latifah, Jamie Foxx, many others all lip sync the song in Aaliyah's honor. A remix by Jay-Z followed where he lists the people in Aaliyah's life who all miss her, included Dash, Kadada, her brother, Rashad, and many others. Aaliyah had a mission with the Red Album, and despite her ultimately passing, her vision was realized. From every visual, every lyric, every piece of music, her goal was to give her fans a deep understanding of herself. She was an artist on the verge of something great. After setting trends for years, Aaliyah was on the path to icon. She got there, though not in the manner that anyone had planned. So that completes chapter 9. So what they say, she went out with a bang. I mean, it's like she left with, with the completion, following the completion of an awesome project, probably some may say her best works. And it's like that one project where it was said that it truly was like her, and not just, the focus being on people who she was collaborating with. It was about her. So what they say, you want your last works to be like on a high. And I think it's safe to say that her last project was just that, on an ultimate high. It's very unfortunate that she left so soon. However, to know that she left following this type of work, like how she left following just probably arguably creating her best work. And, timing is just, the timing of it all, So very sad, very good read as well. So, it's kind of bittersweet. It's like great works, but then it's just like, but why did it have to stop there? We can only wonder, like, what she'd be doing today, what type of music she'd be putting out, what type of films would she have been in, who'd she be married to, what her children would be like. We can just sit and just wonder that for a whole nother life. But like many others who have left us far too soon. The best we can do is just reflect back on their memory. Reading this chapter, it made me think about just all of these this writer does a great job describing the videos, her music videos, because and even what she wore in the music videos. Because as I'm reading, and they'll say, yeah, so this song, like she had on the black and she had the leather, like they'll describe it, and you are like, I will legit like remember like that music video. Think about that song. So she had she was just surrounded by a great team. She just had a great team. And I'm happy that her and Timberland, regardless of, the business things that may have taken place, that she didn't really have control over between, I guess her uncle and Timberland. I'm glad Timberland did choose to work with her, at her request, work with her once again on the album. And I'm sure with not, and then later, we learned that, she passes away. I'm sure, I can only imagine that if he had a not said yes, that would have been something that would have been really hard for him to live with, to know that he was just stuck in his feelings, told her no, and then now she's not with us anymore. So I feel like before she left, she had really strong relationships. She had really strong relationships. She wasn't talking to R. Kelly anymore, rightfully so. But outside of him, it seemed like everyone else in her life, she had strong relationships. This guy, Static, from the music group Playa. Now, that was a new fun fact for me. I had never heard of him before. Musician, let me see. I want to see what he looked like. I remember the music group Playa. Song, Static song. I remember the music group Playa, but I don't remember like any group members in particular. Playa music group. So it said, his mama said, that she and him, like, that they dated. So y'all let me know in the comments if y'all knew about this guy Static, who was a member of the music group Playa. And, he ended up passing away. It seemed like he passed away before she did. He died on February 25th, 2008. So 2 people who just died just too early, very young. I'm going to share my screen. I just looked up this guy, Static, because his name was mentioned a lot. Very talented. Clearly, I just knew his works, but just didn't know him. Can y'all see my screen? Okay, so this is Static. This is Static Major. So this was the guy who his mother said that he and Aaliyah dated. It seemed like they never went public with it, but Mama knows. She said he brought her to her wedding, but I get the impression maybe, I don't know. It seemed like they maybe had stopped seeing each other before she had passed away and they were just kind of friends. I don't know, since they never kind of went public to know a timeline of them dating. But it seemed like even when they did stop dating, they still like stayed friends. He still wrote for her. But yeah, another one that left us far too soon. Hey, what's up, Monique? Welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining. Definitely you all be a part of the replay gang if you all came in late. We covered 3 chapters, chapters 7, 8, and 9. So this was part 3. If you are able to, check out part 1 and 2. So each of the lives are broken out by 3 chapters because there are a total of 14 chapters. So I've been kind of spacing it out. I don't want to lose my voice and all of that. So we can do 3 chapters at a time. So I will be coming back, with the chapters 10, 11, 12. That would be the next live, 10, 11, 12. So make sure you have your notifications on. And we got through this. I guess these chapters were slower because was shorter because normally it takes y'all like 3 hours, but it hasn't even hit 2 hours. So that's good. And I do not feel like my voice is struggling. So let me see. Let's see. So that's good because the chapters on the last show, they were pretty long. So I'm just trying to space it out adequately. Let me see. But you all, let me know what's your thoughts so far. If you've been listening to Aaliyah's story, how do you feel about it? Are there things that you've learned about her story that kind of has you surprised? Like, what are some fun facts that you learned? Because I learned just a lot of historical things just dealing with the music industry. The accolades, she had so many awards. Like, it's crazy. It's like she would clean up, at awards. Her music was almost like guaranteed to make, to be charted, uh, on the top 100, top 200. She just was just, and then she, went back to school, graduated high school, 4.0. She just did everything at a extremely high level. Very gifted, beautiful, and talented, well-rounded, well-rounded. So nothing, bad to say about her. No one in this book so far, spoke any ill against her. Seemed like everyone just had a lot of respect for baby girl, better known as Aaliyah. So that is yeah, that completes our reading for tonight. I thank each and every one of you. Please like, share, subscribe, drop your comments. Make sure you have your notification bells on so you know when I will go live, because we will be coming back with reading chapters 10, 11, and 12 on the upcoming live. I would like to get through the book. We're now more than halfway. So it looks like it's like 14 chapters. So I'd like to get through the book this week. So we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll be able to knock out more than 3 chapters going forward, but we'll see, because these chapters, at least tonight, felt like they were kind of shorter than the previous chapters. So yay for me, since I'm the one having to read and I don't feel like my voice is struggling. My voice felt pretty strong throughout the reading, if you didn't notice. So that's a good thing for me. That's a good thing for Chic. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you all. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Like, share, subscribe, go out there, show up in a way in which you want others to show up for you. Respect yourselves and one another. Take care of yourselves and one another. Remember, like attracts like. Heavy on the show up for yourself. So many times we're showing up for everybody, child. Man, children, woman, dogs, cats. Show up for yourself. Show up for yourself. Take care of yourselves and one another. I'm Chic. I'll catch you on the next broadcast. Peace.